Drunk in disorderlies, 30 now. 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 30 now, 30 now, 30 now, 30 now, 30 now, 30 now. Drunk in disorderlies. All right. Right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Another taping here at 39 Drunk and Disorderlies. I'm Giant Bob. And these are my co-hosts.
Giant Bob. I've never heard you refer to yourself as Giant Bob.
I'm Giant Bob.
To my friends, I'm just Bob, but the giant part comes naturally, so I don't mind tacking it on there for you, okay? It works.
I always call you Big Bob. Do you refer Giant? Do
you know, it doesn't matter, but it's the description of huge, right? Huge Bob, Giant Bob, the Bob, whatever.
Or as it could be like when little people, and when they get called something like, yo, don't call me that. So if we call you like big, it's like, yo, I'm a giant, okay? Like, back off.
See, little people get touchy because they can't do things. Big people can't do a lot of things. We don't get touchy about it. We're just like, no, it's a privilege you get, you know. Fuck it.
Right, like you can't ride in a smart car, probably, right?
No.
Have you tried?
I can, but only like, you know,
his legs
industrial vehicles.
Are you making fun of my automobile? We should just shoot that. We should do that.
It's true. It's true. I got into an Austin Mini one time, but I had to get out through the skylight. Ridiculous. I can drive like big trucks and SUVs, shit like that. Actually, plug to Kia, but Kia makes a bunch of random cars that have seats that go way back. So, yeah, drive those too. It's just pretty cool.
I drive a Kia, but I don't call it a Kia. I call it a Kia Guinea. Like a Lamborghini, but a Kia. You guys understand?
I'm going to look at my first note here.
Yeah, that was great.
Redeem this.
And so, dad joke.
Speaking of which, on the mic we have...
I'm Lars, one of the co-hosts here, and who's this?
I'm Trevor, also somebody who's here who talks and does stuff.
We are the non-giant hosts of the show, just regular-sized people, right? What
yeah.
are you? You're like 6'2", I'm 6'3".
6'1", yeah. I'm trying to...
Fairly big.
Yeah, I mean, we're the over 6... the over 6 club.
Small compared to 6'11". Right?
I was gonna say it's okay. You can call yourself tall until you actually are. Then it's like, okay, you're kind of tall. You're half big.
We are, of course, here at 1830 Bar in downtown Toronto.
And this is just a fantastic site. Once again, shout out to those guys. They're amazing.
They're amazing.
Do that again. Bar 1830. One more time for you guys. Yes.
Bar 1830. Hit them up at 1830 SnackBar on Instagram. We're at 9 Clarence, which is just south of King and Spadina. Swanky venue.
Phenomenal place.
They take good care of it.
You're like in the heart of downtown Toronto, and you're off the beaten path, so it's nice.
And if you're listening to this or watching this right now and you want to check out a live taping, come every Monday to Monday Fun Days. We do a stand-up show at 8, and then at about 10 o'clock, we roll it over and we do this.
That's right. Rock over the mics and do a little bit of a late-night show, a little bit of a talk show.
Also, hit us up at 39DD Show.
Very important.
At 39DD Show on Instagram.
All the updates that
people have been digging it, apparently. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the podcast is basically everywhere you find podcasts. Not yet, because we're banking 6 of these, but as of next week, they'll be on Apple, Google, Spotify, I think Podbean, SoundCloud, pretty much everywhere.
Testify! We are going live.
To the clouds.
Yeah.
The digital clouds.
Again, what this is, Trevor and I happened to meet Big Bob here, where he was playing Andre the Giant in a live Princess Bride show.
Shocking, huh?
He told us these
giant typecasting shit again?
Told us these crazy stories, and we were instantly like, 30. You've had 39 drunken disorderlies? That sounds like the title of a movie. And then we're like, there's no way we're going to fit 39 drunken disorderlies into a 2-hour movie. It's got to be a TV show. And then we're like, we don't have any money. We can't make a TV show. So this podcast is the first iteration of what is developing into a TV series. The purpose of the podcast is to flush out Bob's crazy stories.
That's right. Capture the dialogue and the character.
Which will then script into a docudrama reenactment that we hope to sell to Vice, HBO, Netflix, Hulu, whoever wants to give us money to make it a real
We could also be animating.
Plug Hulu. Come on, guys. Come on down.
Listen,
we need right now.
Listen for it. We're also looking for animators because there are points in the cast, in the storytelling, that it gets quite imaginative. So we would love some animations to go along with that to make it more enjoyable for those Instagram people who need something visual for their eyeballs. Because, it's not enough just to get something for your ears.
Yeah.
Don't forget the eyeballs.
The Sesame Street short attention span generation. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Attention's gone.
So if you want to get involved with 39 Drunken Disorderlies in any shape or form, then hit us up and maybe we'll do that. Especially if you want to sponsor the show. If you're a beer or alcohol sponsor and you're like, 39 Drunken Disorderlies, that sounds like a good thing to sponsor.
Because we like beer.
Yeah.
I mean, we do.
I mean, Big Bob Beer,
And I guess technically they've already sponsored 39 Drunken Disorderlies. They just don't realize it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it wasn't for beer, these stories really wouldn't exist. So,
Brought to you
thanks,
by-
guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of those companies are like sort of, you'd almost call them accessory to your stories, right?
I don't know.
that's right. They're, you guys are already implicated. You may just as well put the money on the line.
Well, isn't that a little bit what it is, where they sell you a bunch of booze in the fucking establishment, and then you go outside and you do some fucked up shit, and they're like, oh, and like you let me get this drunk. You let me get this drunk.
No, it's true.
It's
It's true.
all their fault.
An old bouncer saying is, we sell liquid stupid by the gallon, so we kind of know that the shit's gonna happen when it goes down. It's like, oh yeah, there are drunk people here again. Well, of course there are. It's a bar. Like, we got them drunk. Shit.
What do you think would happen if bars? Who's taken Smart Serve before, where you're actually told like the rules, like, oh, that gentleman's slurring his speech, he's cut off, like, he seems to be wobbling. Could you imagine if bars actually adhered to that? Like,
Oh yeah.
would there
If you
be
had
anyone in a bar
yeah,
after
if you had a
midnight?
robotic bartender who would absolutely every Smart Serve law was like programmed, like the 3 rules of robotics. No one would go to bars. They just wouldn't. You'd walk in and be like, "Have you had 2 servings today, sir?" Yes. Please leave. What?
Or it's like a breathalyzer, like you gotta blow and like
Yeah.
see how like
Yeah. Yes.
That's hilarious.
That would be
actually.
great. Like the auto car starters.
Yeah.
For alcoholics, except it's like get to the bar and the first thing you do is blow a breathalyzer and they just send you home. Like, were you pre-drinking? So everyone was pre-drinking. It's the bar. The only people not pre-drinking were like asleep at the bar from the day before. Like, oh, you know what I mean?
So every one of these episodes, we tell either 1 or 2 of Bob's crazy stories. We try and get some audience feedback. If you have questions for Bob, what it's like to be 6'11" giant in his daily life, or drinking stories.
It's amazing.
And we sort of have a general discussion. One thing that we've always talked about, we don't want to just be glorifying booze because it has a negative, it has some negative side effects. It obviously fucks people's lives up if it's not managed properly. But it also gives you some crazy, crazy stories, and we all love hearing your crazy stories. But we want to have also a real frank discussion about the downside to it and the detriment, so it's a real conversation.
Yeah, if you listened to a couple weeks ago, we had a pretty heartfelt episode, so we like to balance it out. So with that said, should we
You want to
engage?
Want to get into it? here?
Yeah. All right.
What do we
So-
got on the docket?
So because it's Mother's Day week, and whenever you guys are watching this, seeing it, it probably won't be, but because it is, I figured I'd tell you my origin story, because every Outre Madman and Super has an origin story, and mine relates to my mother pretty specifically. So
Makes sense. Origin stories.
yeah, weird, but so I'm going to go into that one tonight.
Please do.
Okay, here we go. So
Buckle up. We always say buckle up right before he starts his story. So,
probably a good idea
buckle
for
up,
safety
everyone.
purposes. Please, everyone, engage your buckles and safety gear now. Okay.
You must be this tall to ride.
As an anecdote, they actually have 2 sticks. So if you go to the park and they're like, you must be this tall to ride, they have another stick. It's really dusty. It's in the back. You almost never see it. That is, if you are this tall or higher, this ride will decapitate you. So you can't go on there. And that's not a joke. That's a reality. If you go next time you're just for amusement fun. That's at an amusement park and you're standing next to a roller coaster. Ask the guy in the little booth, "Do you have the too tall stick?" And he'll look at you for a second and be like, "Yeah, we never use it." And be like, "Can I see it for a sec?" And they'll pull it. And it's always dusty. Like they never use it. But a few times, like near me, for example, you'll walk up and be like, "I'm going on Top Gun," and they're like, "No, you're not." I'm like, "Well, why am I not going on Top Gun?" "It'll kill you." "Oh, okay." So if you're little, you might fly out of the safety harness. Might. If you're big, it will definitely. Ding. like, you know what I mean? You'll take a girder at 95 miles an hour, and that's the end of that one, right?
Little speed one
that's
for
the
you.
story of you. That's another. So when someone says to me, you must be this tall to ride. That's the first thing I always think about. Yes, but if you're this tall, fucking go home.
You're
Don't even
dead.
worry about it. Like, it's over.
I feel like if people can sue McDonald's for the coffee being too hot, you could sue roller coaster companies for
Being
not
too small.
It's very sizist.
Yeah, I know, but you know how hard it is to sue anyone for making things that are too small? Like, almost impossible. Like, this airplane is too small. They're like, well, I'm sorry, sir. You're just too fucking huge. And that's the way it is. And there's no sympathy for that. Like, if I was a midget, they'd give me, like, a motor scooter and, like, a television special about how sorry we are that you're small. You know, I'm like, well, man, here's a pants line for you because you're really little, right? But if you're huge, it's like, why didn't you just play football? You could be a wrestler, you know, and wrestlers get all kinds of respect and they get their own planes. So they don't have to worry about planes. Oh, I'm sorry, Air Canada. I just wanted to go on a vacation. Fuck you. You know what I mean? So, no sympathy. You call Ford and you're like, your cars are all too small. They're like,
And you think those bags of peanuts are small for us. When he gets the small peanuts, they're extra tiny.
ridiculous.
All right, we're going to get into this?
Back to
do
the
it.
All right.
origin.
Buckle up.
So, basically, my trip down the rabbit hole into 39 Drunken Disorderlies began because I moved out when I was 18. And the reason I moved out when I was 18, my mother was extremely ill. She had cystic fibrosis and liver cirrhosis. And so she was on a waiting list for a transplant. And my grandparents were living with me. And that was really harsh. Just because they're great people, but very religious and, you know, very straight-laced and, you know,
They brought a lot of the old guard mentality.
Yeah, so old world views and morality, and you know,
Right.
and I was just discovering, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and so the combination of the two was a little bit.
That's all oil water, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a very interesting morning. I came downstairs, and my grandmother says to me, she's like, "I heard noises upstairs. My room's in the attic of the house. I heard noises upstairs. I was like you were torturing somebody," and I was like, "No." That wasn't what was happening. And my grandfather's kind of smugly looking at the table, like this little grin on the corner of his face, like, but he won't say anything because, of course, Grandma would kill him. And then my date from the night before comes downstairs wearing my robe, and she's like, "Oh, good morning." And I'm like, "I didn't know they were going to be here. I'm sorry." Because I didn't. They just sort of showed up and left and came with, they had keys. And my grandma's like, "Who is this?" And I'm like, "Well, that was the person I was torturing to death upstairs last night, Grandma." And my grandfather sort of goes, and she just looks at him, you know, it was like, don't you encourage him. Right? And I was like, okay, so I guess we're just gonna go out for breakfast. See you later. Like we, you know, went upstairs, got dressed, and took off. But awkward moments like that started occurring with more and more frequency, and I realized that was pretty much untenable. And my father and mother had divorced, so I tried living with my dad for a while. That didn't work out either, and eventually said the only thing that kind of connected with my strange sort of drunken teenage brain, which was, you know, under my roof, under my rules. And to be perfectly honest, that's extremely fair. It's like, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm not paying shit for this house. I'm here. Like, I don't deserve any rights to stake my claim. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, yeah, cool. So I'm moving out. And within like a week, I found a place with some friends, and I thought it was amazingly mature. You know, like, yeah, I got my own place now. I'm going to be the rest of my life. I'm a superstar. I got this now. I got my
How
own
old were
place.
you?
I was 18.
18.
So, anyway, I don't know exactly how long I've been living on my own, but having a pretty good time of it, you know, working as a bouncer on the weekends and stuff. And I got the weekend bouncing gig again because mother was in the hospital a lot, in and out. And I was at the coffee shop in the middle of the night, the hospital one night. And, I don't know, an individual obviously suffering a bit of a mental breakdown kind of flipped out in the coffee shop while I was there and started attacking somebody else. And so I walked over and I separated the two of them, and I grabbed the one guy who was obviously the problem. I'm like, you have to leave because I don't need this shit. Like, I need coffee and, like, relaxation. I'm here. My mom's upstairs dying. You're fucking beating some other guy up over, like, you know, a croissant or something. Like, just get the fuck out of here. So I taught...
a what?
A croissant. Croissant! Come on now. We're bilingual in this fucking
That is a
country.
crescent.
We can say croissant. Croissant-wich. Okay, just... All right? So anyway... I tossed the guy out, and it turns out the late shift guy working at the coffee shop was also a bouncer at a bar. And he saw me throw this dude out and was like, oh, shit, that giant guy, I can give him a job. The guy working, he do this job. Never asked me how old I was. This is important to see. So anyway, I showed up at the bar, and the little sketchy, half Irish, half native alcoholic cocaine addict who ran the spot was like twitching. I was like, "Where's the new guy? There's supposed to be a new guy here." And I've been sitting in the back for half an hour reading, right? And the guy Dave goes, "Oh yeah, he's right there." And I got up. By the time I walked from the back of the bar to where he was sitting at the bar, yeah, the head was doing the rotation upwards. I get to him and he goes, "You're hired." Like, didn't credentials, name, no. "You're hired." So I started working at this bar. I'm like, yeah, I'm making money on my own. I'm doing just fine, living on my own. Well, so that lasted about, I guess, 6 months. And everything was going fantastic. I was going to my buddy Rich's place with a friend, Ken and Rich, who were hanging out, walking down the street. Rich appears in a lot of my stories. He's my best friend. So
Is that Rich, you said?
yeah, so that's a name you're going to hear again and again. Anyway, I was crossing at a crosswalk. It was rainy November night. It's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, just a light sheen of rain, but cold enough that if you were, you know, wet, you'd really suffer for
Much
it. Right?
like tonight.
Yeah, much like tonight. Yeah. Except it was November, so you expect it to be cold.
Thanks,
right?
November, May.
Yeah, Mayvember.
There it is.
So anyway, I'm crossing this crosswalk, and this car runs the crosswalk, goes right through, right in front of me, like just screaming along. Man, pissed me right off. I had some headphones on. I was like, motherfucker, almost killed me. Now, the mistake that I made was that I stopped in the middle of the crosswalk to fuck off the guy that just ran the crosswalk. And so the dude tailgating the guy that just ran the fucking crosswalk in his SUV ran me the fuck over. I mean, it hit me like it must have gone 60, 70 kilometers an hour. Blew me through the air like a fucking rag doll. I launched up onto the hood. My elbow went through the windshield. I cracked the fucking radiator block. I got blown 25 feet off the hood of the car, did a fucking full flip and scraped my face off on the pavement. Ended up lying in the streetcar tracks on Kingston Road, ragdolled and broken. And my friend Ken goes, "I think he's dead." And Rich is like, "Give it a second." and Bob goes, on the ground, makes that noise. And Rich is like, "Nope, he's still with us." And I'm just like, lying on the ground. And the rainwater, since it's a bit of a hill on Kingston Road in the streetcar tracks, the rainwater is just running down my back, right? And so I start going numb because it's November. It's freezing cold water. There's all these weirdos, like people from the car, people from other streetcars and stuff, standing around me going, "What do we do? What do we do with this guy?" And I'm like going with the first aid today. I'm like, "Nothing. Don't touch me. Go away. Go away." You know? And eventually, to let the streetcar go northbound, they move my legs and sort of pull me sort of into the other lane. Like, I'm like, "Please stop." They don't stop.
There was people on that streetcar that were fucking pissed. Like,
Oh, yeah.
fucker.
I'm just going home, and this fucking guy decided to die in the road. Son of a bitch. I'm missing Seinfeld right now. So anyway.
So wait, when you flipped off this first guy, but the other guy was tailgating, so you just...
So the first car...
But you missed it?
Okay, this is me. This is the crosswalk. First car blows through the crosswalk.
Yeah.
I stepped 1 foot forward and I stop and I'm like, "Fuck
Asshole.
you, buddy." And the second car hits me from
You just
behind.
didn't even see the second
No,
car.
I didn't see him coming.
You hear that, kids? Always look for the second.
So I wrapped around, like my one leg stayed planted and my other leg was sort of up in the air. So I rotated around the knee and blew everything inside that, just exploded. And I wrote the truck off, tore off half my face.
So when they say, the saying of like, "Oh, it feels like I just got run over by a truck," this is literally what you would feel like. So
yeah,
if you have any
and I'll tell you,
questions-
whenever people say that, I kind of look at them like, "No, it's not." And they're like, "What does it feel like?" I'm like, "I don't know. Go dance in traffic. Let me know." Because I tell you, it's not comparable. Like, "Oh, I'm really hungover. I feel like I got hit by a truck." No, you don't. No, you don't.
But you
I can tell you-
actually didn't break any bones. You
No,
blew
I
out,
didn't.
like,
I did not break any
and
bones. I tore all
tendons and
kinds of
that
muscles.
shit.
And actually, that came back to haunt me too. Because under the Mike Harris government, the act they just placed through the insurance companies, if you didn't suffer any permanent life-altering injuries, which usually requires broken bones, stitches, things like that, you can't sue. So
That's why you can't sue in this
I
country.
got like an extremely minuscule settlement plan package because I was working underage illegally in bars for cash. So there was no like tax returns. They're like, "Well, this is how much money I made, insurance company." They're like, "How much money did you make?" And I'm like, "None." They're like, "Saying how much money you're getting?" I'm like, none. And they're like, pretty much. So I was at home convalescing. Basically, the first week I stayed with my dad. I couldn't even walk to the washroom. I mean, it was literally one of those situations where like I'm crawling on my hands and knees and fingertips trying to get to the bathroom because nothing would work. Legs, I couldn't get up the stairs.
What hurts the most at this point?
Everything from the hair to your toenails.
Everything.
It's like being broken on the rack, right? Your entire body's been stretched over the hood of the car. So I was black from my hip to like my shoulder on the one side where the car hit me and bruised up. Like I said, my face from here to there had been torn off on the asphalt.
Ugh, fucking Harvey Dent over here.
It was bad. It was really bad. And the hospital's like, well, nothing's broken, so here's some T3s.
Oh, God.
Go home and, like, you'll be all right. Hey, we'll wheel you out to the car because, here you go. They're, like, in the parking lot, like, dumping out. The wheelchair's ours, though, so you just... You'll be all right.
Doctor from
Here's some crutches that are like 3 feet tall. So you'll be fine. Don't worry. It'll all be great. That'll be great. And getting the X-rays, that was a lot of fun too. Getting the X-rays because the first orderly I actually had to choke him, and I don't. It sounds really crazy. Like I had to choke an orderly. Yeah. Well, I did because people don't listen at all ever, especially when you're in excruciating pain. It helps if you choke them. That's just life lessons. So I'm lying there near the X-ray table, right? And this one guy comes in and goes, well, I need to take this X-ray of your leg, so I'm just gonna straighten your leg out. And I'm like, no, see, like, I just got hit by a truck. Like, it's not straight because a truck hit it. It's not like I'm just sort of lazily hanging it there. No, it just lays like that. No, like it's bent because a truck hit it. Well, yeah, but if I just, please don't touch the leg. But if I just do, no, but please with the leg. Ah! I didn't really realize I had the guy until I had him. I'm like, you have to stop touching me right now because you're crazy and this hurts like you wouldn't believe. Please stop.
Just Bart Simpson throttle. Just like
yeah, exactly. And this other woman comes in and goes, what's going on in here? I'm like, this guy's torturing me. Please make him leave. And she's like, oh, okay. So he leaves, and I'm like, all right, I'll try and straighten my own leg. I'll try, but stop touching me. Like whatever it takes, less the touching, the broken legs and stuff. But don't do that. So that sucked. But getting home and, convalescing, I got really lucky because my ex-girlfriend had a bunch of leftover painkillers, like Percodans or Percocet or something from her surgery the year before. So she brought those over, and that was the only thing that allowed me to basically ambulatorily make my way to the bathroom on my own, which was nice. Being able to walk down the hallway was a new thing, thanks to painkillers.
What was the hardest daily thing that we take for granted that we do on a daily? What was the hardest thing?
Getting out of bed. My mattress was on the floor.
Starting the day. Okay.
Yeah, my mattress was on the floor, and actually standing up from being down that low was almost impossible for a week. Like I'd have to grab the desk and just be like, whoa, and like try to, because the thing is, I couldn't. Okay, if I couldn't bend the leg, or it would just immediately flare like someone had been stabbed with an ice pick, right? So trying to stand up with straight legs from basically a laying position. I mean, unless you're Bela Lugosi, you can kind of like pop out of the cocoon like, which I can't do.
What?
It's very, very difficult. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
It's like He-Man Warrior just trying to like stand up on your dresser. That's the...
What are your residual injuries? You still have issues from that, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a patch on my ass about 6 inches long that has absolutely no feeling to this day.
Wow.
Like, it's the weirdest thing.
How do you know that there's no feeling on that patch?
Because like you could poke it, like I'm doing right now, like just like this.
Okay.
And
so you get people poking your butt, and you're like,
well, no, it's like if you're sitting a certain way and you lean against something,
Right.
you'll feel it on your hip, whatever.
Right.
I won't until it's like my whole leg's asleep, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on that spot. Like I move over, build it.
I have that right here on my pinky. I cut it on a. I was slicing potatoes on one of them. Yeah, one of those things, and you can't hold the potato close, and I just literally sliced off, and so
you learned that the hardest way.
Touch me right there, Bob. Not a thing.
I like how his comparison is literally the tiniest end of a.
I'm just like you.
But my truck was a potato, and I did it to myself.
Do you get traumatized going on crosswalks? Do you
no.
step and you're like?
I do think about it sometimes. Actually, I think about it when I watch other people jaywalk.
Yeah, right.
I'm always thinking like, I know it could happen to you.
Like, Oh,
I know.
Here comes a truck. Oh.
And it could happen. It happened to me, so it could happen to you. And I survived because I'm a lot bigger than you. Like, if you go over and get blown up on the hood, really, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you get sucked under,
no, that's
you don't go home. Like, that's it. You're done, right?
Well, yeah, that's the one thing. Like, you probably survived, but most humans would be obliterated.
Well, again, like my friend Ken thought for sure I was dead. And that's what he said to Rich. He's like, he's not gonna. He's dead.
Did anyone say like this might be a second chance or like this is?
No, nobody said anything sort of
wasn't
cliched or shit like that. They're just
But
like,
did it
here's,
feel like that? At all, maybe?
no, here's some shitty painkillers. Go home and suffer for a while. Doesn't really feel like
Really
a second shot.
downplayed the divine intervention.
No, not at all. Just hurt.
Were you 39 DD level and intoxicated?
Not at all. Actually, that's the best part. I was like stone fucking sober.
That's what you get for being.
That's what I figured. I learned a life lesson there. I'm like, fuck that. If you're gonna walk around and get hit by shit, you better be wasted. So, anyway, so my mother's condition was deteriorating while I was convalescing, and
Can I just press pause? I don't know that I know the definition of convalescing, and if I don't know it, that probably means some people in the audience don't know. Does anyone know what convalescing means? Is that what it is? Okay, wow, it's a rare word. You have such good diction. Thank you for that. Thank you.
We do usually have a word of the day on,
like this,
on the
convalescing, like heal.
essentially, I was in recovery.
Okay.
So, I was fighting with my landlord at the time because he knew that my job was one of these weird like cash on demand and where's the money kind of jobs. And I said, look, I've got money coming in, things will be fine. I'll write you some post-dated checks.
Classic.
When the settlement comes, because I'm waiting for the government to pay me the money they owe me, then you'll get it. Like the check's already written, it's already agreed with the bank. As soon as the money comes in, you'll have it. So I'm dealing with that on the one front, and I'm trying to make it to the hospital at night to see my mom because my dad was not in the picture. They'd broken up, and my grandparents were doing day shift at the hospital. So I used to go at night, and as her condition got worse, and it was more like spending a lot of time in the intensive care in the EU, and just sort of dealing with that. I couldn't get down there. I was too crippled up, and I basically couldn't walk. So I knew she wasn't doing well at all. I knew things were pretty bad, but I couldn't do much about it, And it was one of those things. You want so desperately to be there for someone else, but you hurt yourself, so you can't. You know what I mean? And it divides your time emotionally between trying to get better and also trying to be strong for someone else who's going through terrible illness, right?
Well, and that can be the case, not even physically, right? Like some people just feel like they can't handle stuff, but they want to be there for other people. So, yeah, that's
absolutely
tricky.
So at any rate, she ended up getting her transplant, but there were some serious side effects and rejection issues, and she had a series of strokes. And I got called at home while I was laying in bed, basically too fucked up to walk, and the doctor's like, well, she's on life support, but she's probably not going to make it. And you, as the only next of kin on the registration list, have to decide whether you pull the plug or not. And I'm laying there, looking black and blue, half my face torn off, like thinking I have to do this on the phone. It's like, here's your polling question. Do you like Cheerios? Do you like, Frosted Flakes? Do you want to kill your mom? Really? Pretty impersonal, right? So I knew that after all the injuries and the strokes that she'd had, her mental capacity was essentially that of a 5-year-old again. Like learning how to walk, use the washroom, all that stuff. And I just thought to myself, that's not who she was, and that's not who she'd want to be.
I mean, there's a level of degradation there for sure.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, I don't want her to suffer anymore. I don't want that to happen. So just let her go, let her go naturally, let her happen. And I'll always regret that, not making the choice, but having to make the choice over the phone and not being able to be there to do anything. I don't know, just to say anything. There were no last words. There wasn't any of that. You know what I mean? There was none of that shit. There was just kind of, well, it's over now, and you can learn to cope with that.
Like, click.
Yeah.
Like,
and then
phone in.
Yeah, and then they hung up the phone. It was over. Like the conversation was had, and they were like, "Well, you have to sign some paperwork at some point, but right now, blah, it's done." So, I got the settlement from my insurance, and I got the settlement from her death benefits about the same time because the injury and insurance claims in this province are just fucking phenomenal, right? Right. It takes a really long time for that shit to process. And I guess the reason this is the origin story is because I needed a coping mechanism. I had to survive somehow. And I had basically lost my moral compass, the center of, you know, who I was emotionally, right? Because she was always the one. My dad's the logistician. He's a lot more calm and collected and ordered. And my mother was always the one who was like, you got to feel life. You got to live it. You got to do these things, you know, experience emotionally. So,
What was your mom's name?
Hika.
Say again.
Wow.
Hika, it's a Dutch name.
Hika?
Yeah. And anyway, so for a while it was pretty close. It was a pretty close thing, whether I was going to make it or not. I knew I was like right on the ragged edge, you know. And I started drinking very heavily, just at home. One of those things you wake up in the morning, roll over and grab the 60-pounder of whiskey and just start drinking before you even try and get out of bed. Because frankly, what the fuck? What difference did it make? I had a lot of money. Like, I guess I was like ultra poor guy rich, but I had like, you know, a couple tens of thousands of dollars kicking around. And I was like, I'm going to spend it all on killing myself, just going mental. So, you know, I made a lot of bad spaceman life decisions, had all kinds of loose and fast relationships and...
Spaceman life?
Yeah, bad spaceman life decisions, you know, because when you're completely spaced out and just sort of in free fall, you make some interesting choices, right? So that sort of kicked off the entire behavioral trend that became, you know, the stories of 39 Drunken Disorderlies. I mean, really, it was sort of the turning point, you know. And I tell some stories sort of before this period, but really the defining characteristic. I mean, it's what turned me into a bouncer. Was her illness. It was what prepared me to sort of be the gruff, you know, nightlife figure that I have become. It also kicked off a period of drinking, drug use, and debauchery that I don't think most people have ever experienced. Just because, again, you kind of have to be riding the ragged edge to go there. It's not one of those things you just, well, you know, I'm just going to experiment with every drug known to man because it's good for you. And that's not the choices you make. You make these choices because they're the only thing you have left. It's like, you know, I thought that it was it. It's like, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter anymore. Tomorrow's just another day of pain and suffering anyway, so let's just fill it with all the fun things we can find. And those fun things come in a bottle or a baggie or a, you know, what have you. That's where they come from. You know, if it's wearing cheap lipstick and bad pumps, that works too. Like, let's just go for it. Like bad spaceman life decisions, right?
It's like escapism and
absolutely, but nihilistic escapism, absolutely. I mean, the decision that nothing matters, so it doesn't matter what I do. And in fact, the more you punish yourself for the sins either perceived or real, the more you become that sort of nihilistic hedonist. You know, you just, every pleasure has to be all pleasure all the time, instantaneous, right? All of it. And that defines you. And after a while, that becomes, I mean, everyone knows you as that party guy. You're having 3-4 parties a week. People coming to your house. It's like, oh, it's that guy in the bathrobe with the cane. You know what I mean? It's like, he's always got a bottle of whiskey in his pocket. And like, he's the greatest fun. And they don't really know the reason you're the, you know, the guy in the bathrobe with the cane drinking 24 hours a day, you know, and having a couple $100 a day drug habit is because you're living on the ragged edge. Like, you're not even there, really. And that's the point. You're not even there. So when Trevor was saying earlier, no, I'm not trying to glorify alcoholism or drug abuse or madness or, you know, sexual debauchery or any of these things. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tell people my life stories and the realities of that. You know, and sometimes it gets lost. I think it does. It really gets lost on people when I tell these stories, that they're not about heroics. They're about the realities of it. And so, yeah, a lot of these stories are a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of those parties were great. I met some amazing people. I've had some unbelievable times. I've seen some things that most people never would. But again, I want it to be understood. I think it's important that fans of this podcast who know me or understand what I'm saying when I tell these stories know that it all basically started because a young man jumped out in the world a little too early, maybe, and got kicked in the teeth really hard and decided to walk around with broken fingers, picking up his chiclets, going, it's okay, until he, you know, learned how to function as an adult, right? And I still probably haven't figured that out. I mean, shit, I'm 37 years old. How the fuck do you function as an adult? What does that even mean? I don't think any of us fucking knows that, honestly. I mean, you look at our grandparents and their grandparents, and they just did the best they could. They all had kids and they're like 15 years old, and like, you know what I mean? What the fuck do they know about being adults? I don't think anyone does. I think we find out who we are as people. We pretend that matters. We pretend that being mature or somehow going to change us into someone we're not. When the truth is, you're always going to be you. And I'm always going to be that scared boy on the phone talking to some impersonal doctor saying, yeah, let her go. I mean, you have to let her go. It's cruel not to. You have to. Right? And I'm also always going to be the guy that lived through that. I didn't die. I didn't. I mean, I thought I was going to for a while, but I didn't. And surviving it not only made me stronger in some ways, but also made me aware of the fact that I did survive it. And I don't know if that means anything except that knowing you were this close to the ragged edge, but you didn't go over, can be personally empowering, right? It can wake you up too. So I don't know. That's my Mother's Day story. Happy Mother's Day, guys.
Cheers to,
Sorry about that.
Cheers to Mama Malcolm. So I have a question. Is obviously you've lived through it. You've thought about it. What would you say to your 18-year-old self now, who was on that brink, or obviously thousands, if not millions, of people right now are going through crazy fucking shit in their life, and their solution or answer laying in front of them is booze and drugs and all this stuff that not necessarily is a great solution. But if you were to, what would you say to that kid? Or
well, once again, I'm gonna have to quote Hunter S. Thompson on this one. I'm not advocating sex, drugs, and rock and roll for everybody, but it's always worked for me. So what I'd say to my 18-year-old self is, what you need to survive is what you need to survive. And it's a crutch to lay on sometimes. If it's, a cross to bear, or if it's a bottle to drain, if that's what it takes to live through it, that's what it takes. Keep the perspective. You know what I mean? Remember that it's not going to rain every day. It's not always bad. But at the same time, if you need a crutch and you need something to lean on and you don't have it, far be it for me to judge you for taking it. I'm forgiving of people who've had their problems, and sometimes you ride the horse and sometimes the horse rides you, and that's the difference, right? Mm. You can do drugs, you can party like a maniac, you can drink like a crazy person, but if you don't find any perspective at the bottom of the bottle eventually, it'll eat you. I mean, that's it. You'll fall into the mouth of madness and it'll eat you, and that's just the way of it.
Do you feel like you figured it out?
I think I got lucky. I think I did. I think I got really lucky. I think I figured it out, but just barely. And that's why I can tell these crazy stories, because I was right there. I figured it out just in the nick of time. I mean, I did the drugs. I partied as hard as anyone can. But at a certain point, I realized it's time to just sort of wait a sec. Got to take it back just a notch.
Was there like a major turnaround moment, like maybe one instance?
No, I don't think there was. I really don't. I don't know. I'm sure that happens for some people. But for me, it was just a slow, weaning process. It was like, instead of drinking, every night of the week super heavily, it was let's drink 3 nights of the week super heavily. And then it was like maybe 1 night of the week, maybe only on the weekends, or maybe, pick your poison, right?
Or my personal favorite is your sober job where you don't drink at work.
Yes, exactly. Having a job where I go to, this is my day job where I don't drink. Right? And then it's like, here's the 2 night jobs where I do. But then there's the, exactly. You fill those places, right? I don't think there was ever a turning point where I was like, this has to change. Yeah.
Audience question, were you or are you an alcoholic?
I certainly was. Am I? I don't know if you're ever not. That's. I guess that takes wiser man than me to know. I never went to meetings, but absolutely. For a goodly period of my life, I was extraordinarily dependent on drugs and alcohol. I mean, just for, I guess, daily routine. So, and...
Question was, what advice would you give to people in that situation?
Yeah, what advice would I give? If what, to people who thought they were an alcoholic or needed a way to judge that? Well, recognizing, I think that's actually the easy part. And I think most people will tell you they don't know that they're like a serious drunk or what have you, or just lying because, I mean, sorry, like you You wake up in your bathrobe in the park across the street more than once. You know what I mean? You like, there's like, when cabbies are like, no, I know you, you can't take this cab. You know, the local bus depot is like, you can't sleep here anymore, please leave. Like, you know.
The signs start showing up.
Yeah, you know what's going on. Like, I would argue that it's the self-denial that's the problem. Most people refuse to look at themselves in the mirror and see who's actually there.
So does it take someone prodding or?
No, I don't think so. I think it's yourself. Like I said, I've never had that problem. I get up, I look in the mirror, and I'm like, oh, look at that drunken piece of shit. I knew full well. I'm standing there, the rings under the eyes, the bags, the whole deal, like drugged out, fucking drunk as fuck again, and I knew it. I always knew it.
You always said that. You always were aware. You're like, this is this choice, and I'm making it.
That's right. I'm doing this. That's the other thing. I think you, like I said, sometimes you ride the horse, and sometimes it rides you. Well, I choose to ride, not be ridden. Yeah. No. One, I don't think recovery is the right word. I don't like when people use that word for alcoholics because frankly, they don't recover. The things that make you an alcoholic are usually your life, and you never recover from your life. So your life either gets better, and you have less reason to do the idiotic things you used to do, or your life stays the same and you have no reason not to. So I think that people who have that compulsion to drink because it's there are different from people who drink because they're sad or drink because they're really depressed or drink because they're nihilistic, right? I think that's a different disorder altogether. I'm not sure how to describe that really in better terms, but if you're just drinking because alcohol is alcohol and you love it, that's something else. I can have a beer with dinner, like eat a steak and not think twice about getting wasted. In fact, I can work all night and have, 5 or 6 drinks and that's it. Go home, no big deal. Other nights when I want to go out and party, I can drink all night, get wasted with people. And the next day it's like, well, I don't feel like drinking today. It's not a big deal, right? With the drugs, I basically don't do drugs anymore. I smoke a little bit of pot now and again. But the drug thing was just a matter of, again, I don't have an addictive personality. So I could do anything, ecstasy, cocaine, whatever, and just say, well, I guess I'm not going to do that again anymore. Or I don't need that anymore, or I don't want that anymore, right? So no, I don't know about that. In my experience, it hasn't been that kind of a fight. And it wasn't like I had to climb that hill. It was like, well, I just don't need to drink every day like an idiot, so I won't. So maybe there are people out there, and I can't speak for them, but maybe there are people out there who can't ever touch it again, and I've heard that. I have heard that.
Well, and we know the people too where the behavior changes drastically. Like you have a friend who's whatever, and then they get out and then all of a sudden they've got 3 to 5 drinks in them, and they're just a different person. But
that's the other thing. I'm not particularly different.
Right here.
I'm not particularly different when I'm drunk or sober, right? That's the other thing. Like if I'm really wasted, obviously, of course, like everyone else, you're really wasted. That's different. But my personality doesn't actually change that much. I don't do anything more stupid per se than I would do already under the right circumstances. Like, oh, hey, man, I dare you to do this. And I'm like stone sober. I'm like, no. He's like, double dare you? No. Triple dog dare you? And I'm doing it.
Maybe just a little, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
For so many various reasons, yeah.
Recap that comment. Yeah.
You're saying you have anxiety, and it's difficult. Well, with the narrative today of mental illness, it's a lot easier for people to talk about the traumas they've suffered and the pain it is to deal with that.
There's a more open door there.
Absolutely. But you're absolutely right, though. You're absolutely right. It's important. They always say that, part of recovery, right? You have to accept it. You have to own it. It's got to be yours.
Well, it's like even when you're physically ill and you're like, no, I'm good, and then sometimes you got to be like, no, like I need to shut her down for.
I gotta take a week off. Yeah.
Admit that I'm like run down.
I'm not going to the office with pneumonia again. I'm just not doing it. I mean, your coworkers thank you, but.
I think further to the comment or question about like people about whether or not they have to stop booze altogether. I think there's a difference, and one way to think about it is I feel like some people, alcohol is the problem. Like alcohol was introduced to them, they became addicted to it, and their life went to shit. Then there's other people where alcohol was what they thought was a solution to other problems.
Was the placebo they poured on their
it was
problems.
relationship problems or family problems or just like general mental issues or
I think that's true too.
or whatever, and then they have those issues, so they're like, I need some medicine to fucking numb myself out and get away from that shit, and then they turn to alcohol, and then that maybe makes their life worse. And then there's other people who just, if you just remove the booze or alcohol or drugs from their life, then they wouldn't have those problems.
Yeah. Sure. But then I would stop drinking for weeks on end, and then I go out again, and I get so ripped roaring and drunk. So peaks and valleys. Peaks and valleys.
We live in a culture, though, that sort of trains us to binge drink.
Yeah, I was going to say, binge drinking is more of a socially acceptable behavior than ever before.
You can't be in college or university and not be exposed to, like, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. What are we doing? We're doing shots. We're doing beer pong. We're doing this. And
just the popular culture of alcohol, though. I mean, look at any of the movies about going out. People, like, you go out that one night and you drink your fucking face off and woo!
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'd walk outside, and we'd see joggers and like fucking losers, and then we realized that we're the fucking losers that are like blackout drunk,
And it's almost sun up.
making fun of people that are doing their jobs, just being like assholes. And we're like, oh no, we're the assholes.
I love the getting on the streetcar with the school-age children. It's like Monday, and you're like, get on the streetcar, and you're sitting there, and you're wasted. I mean, wasted. Reeking of booze, staggering around. And you look around and there's all these like little kids. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? It's got to be like 4 o'clock in the morning. You check your watch and you're like, oh, shit, it's 10:30 in the morning. Oh, it's like a class trip. We're going to the science center. Oh, yeah. I was just there. It's a pretty cool place. See you later.
I'm a science experiment.
You know what I mean?
I woke up in Minneapolis on a like a park bench on the sidewalk at like 7:30 a.m. I was there on a business trip. We were raging all night till like 4 a.m. Got like shots, Jager bombs all night. And then I'd leave the bar, wander home, and at some point, I guess I passed out. Woke up at like the crack of 7:30 to exactly this. Downtown Minneapolis, everyone's going to work, walking by in suits, and I'm like clearly like
one hairy eyeball
recovering from a night. And I remember, I'm like, my phone is dead. I don't know where the fuck I am. We were on a business trip, so there's a bunch of us at a hotel. I don't know which direction is which. And then I'm like looking around, and then I see the H for the Hilton way off in the distance, and it was just like the bat signal. Like, there is the H, and I just see this big blue H. So I just started walking like a zombie.
Turned out it was the hospital and you were okay too.
Then they pumped his stomach and he found the hotel.
Right. No, I just went to the conference and I joined the 9 a.m. sessions an hour later.
Boop. You got those like cartoon bubbles around you, just like.
It's crazy. So we should, we got some audience questions in. We should probably bring this to a close here.
We'll wrap this
final parting words. Maybe the final parting words of hit us up at 39DD Show.
Yeah, come check us out, man. We love it. 39DD Show at 39DD Show. That's us right here.
And we should also say, let's raise it up one more time for not only Bob's mother, but all of our mothers. This is Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day, guys. To those mothers out there and those of you with mothers, which is every fucking buddy.
Kiss them, hug them while you got them.
Hold them while you got it.
Someday you won't.
Say your love,